Yesterday was a pretty productive day. I was able to get the bed on and bolted down and lined up, and I was able to get the front end back on it and lined up, and it seems to fit pretty well. Color match on the fenders is pretty decent. It's a little bit off in direct sunlight, but I think once I buff up the rest of the truck and get the orange tinge off of the rest of the truck that wasn't painted, then should match up pretty decent. The spot on the other side that I fixed is so-so. You can definitely see a line in it. I'll try to wet sand it out and buff it out. Hopefully it won't be as noticeable, but whatever, it's a work truck and I'm about done with it, so mentally I'm about done with it, so it's good enough. And I guess really the only thing left before getting it back on the road is I'm waiting on the power steering pump still to come back from being rebuilt. Once that's back, I can pretty much get it back together, get it over for an alignment, and hopefully start driving it. Figured this would be a good time for an update. I had an alignment and a transmission service done on it last week, and it drives really well now. Tracks straight down the road, has good power, but after putting a couple 100 miles on it, I got out of the truck and I could smell gear oil in the front. After looking under the truck real quick, I could see that the driver front knuckle had gear oil running down it, so the seal has gone out of the front axle. I'm not terribly surprised considering this wheel took a really hard hit in the accident. This wheel was bent and the radius arm was bent really bad. So instead of throwing money at putting a seal in it and possibly ball joints, because I was hearing a popping noise in the front left when I would turn, I just went over to the local salvage yard and picked up a 20,000 mile replacement front axle. And my suspicion about the axle being bent is because this radius arm was pretty much an S shape when I pulled it out of the truck, and it looks like the axle tubes are pressed into the case. So if this was bent, and so if the axle tube is sitting like this now and the axle is still coming out straight, even if I put a new seal in it, it's just going to keep tearing them out. And those are not easy to replace seals. From what I found out, you have to take the whole differential assembly out of the pumpkin, and you have to have like some case spreaders, and by the time that would be something I would take to have done, and by the time I took it somewhere, it'd be several $100s, I'm sure. And then if it needs ball joints, those are pressed in and a pain in the ass to replace. So I would be in it for several $100s, and then if that axle tube is bent, it's just going to keep tearing seals out of it. So for what I paid for this whole assembly with 20,000 miles on it, it's a lot less headache just to replace it and be done with it. I'm going to throw a coat of paint on the radius arms. They're pretty gouged up, scratched up from the yard taking it out of the truck, and once that's painted, I'll get it in. Hopefully it won't take too long, a day, maybe 2 days, hopefully, and go from there. Alright, it only took about an hour and a half, but got the old front end out of it. It's pretty much just 2 bolts back here, a couple bolts in the front. Take the shocks off and it just pretty much rolls out from under it. I swapped over the front sway bar and I think it's pretty much ready to go in. Once it's in, I'll swap my rotors over to it, since how they're new. I'll put the 4-wheel drive actuator in. I'll swap the steering damper. The one that's on this new axle has a big dent in it, and it should be ready to go. Luckily I was able to just move the calipers. With everything unbolted, I was able to just move the calipers out of the way, so now I won't have to re-bleed the brakes or anything. So overall it's pretty simple to get it out. I may have to call my neighbor, see if he can come over and help me put it in. It might take a couple people to get everything lined up. We'll see. Quick update on the truck. I've got it all done. I've been driving it for a couple weeks now, and knock on wood, everything's been okay. Now that it's done, I've gone and taken an inventory of the garage to see what extra parts I've got laying around, and I don't have too much. I've got a couple radius arms. I'll throw those on eBay. I've got drag link. Put that on eBay too. I've got my bent axle that's sitting out back. I'll put that up for sale for parts. If somebody needs a differential or something out of it, that'll work, but otherwise I'll probably just scrap it. And I did have to buy a new seat, so there's something screwed up in the recline mechanism on this one. So it doesn't latch very well. It keeps wobbling when you sit on it. And it was irritating, so I bought a new seat. I grabbed the cushions off of it. Those are still in pretty good shape. I'll throw those on eBay, and maybe I'll get a couple $100 out of everything I've got laying around the garage. So whatever. The airbag's still good, but you are not allowed to send those through the mail. And I know people do it, but if you get caught, it's a huge fine, and I don't really need to deal with that to make maybe $150. So we'll just blow it in the garage and have a little fun with it today. And before you piss and moan about playing with airbags, I do this for a living, so as a safety engineer I work with airbags a lot, so it's not that dangerous if you know what you're doing. And considering I've got it mounted on the seat frame has enough weight to it that it might fall over or something, but it's not going to go flying anywhere. I've got it wired up over to my battery, so all I should have to do is touch the lead to the battery and it should go. Alright, 3, 2, 1. That was a pretty good pop. As we can see, this is a combination hip and thorax airbag. So it comes out low to protect your hips. This protects the chest, and then the truck has a curtain airbag that comes down for your head. So that all works together to protect you in a rollover or a side impact. So now remember, don't play with these if you don't know what you're doing. And the The inflator's in the back side, so that'll be really hot, so don't touch that for a while. And the gases that are coming out are just byproducts of the gas to fill it. It's not on fire or anything. So, as much trouble as this truck has been, there's a little bit of fun for the afternoon. Alright, here we have the finished product. I've been driving it 3-4 weeks now, put about 500 miles on it, and knock on wood, everything has been okay. Drives pretty well, straight down the road, and it's a little dirty now, but looks pretty good. Still debating about taking it over and having the dents in the bedside taken out with PDR. It'll look a little better after that. Yeah, it drives well, gets an amazing 14 to 15 miles per gallon, but really can't expect much more out of it. It's a over 6,000 pound truck. Like I said, the exterior looks pretty good now. The interior I haven't finished detailing yet. I've scrubbed it down probably 3-4 times, but like the dash is still stained with red clay dust from being a farm truck. Rubber floors, those will probably clean up with a few more scrubbings. Ideally I could find a carpet to replace it with, but regular cabs are hard to come by in the junkyard, so we'll see. So far we haven't had any warning lights. Fires right up. Sounds good. Has the nice Hemi rumble. Now that pretty much all of the accessories have been replaced, alternator, power steering pump, AC compressor, the idler, the belt, it's pretty mechanically sound now. Let's take it for a drive. It still moves itself pretty good. Like I said before, the fuel mileage is horrendous, but can't really expect anything better. It has massive brakes, so it stops pretty well. Definitely doesn't handle like a sports car, but what it is, it does pretty well. Driving a bus at all, with all of the precision you expect from a recirculating ball steering system. Let's see how it handles a couple of these curves. Take your stance, brace yourself. truck has been disassembled and reassembled, and there's no squeaks or rattles or anything, I will consider it a win. And there you have it. It's the end of this project. What I'm going to do with it, I'm not sure. I'm building a house and the property requires some clearing, so it'd probably be handy to have a 3/4 ton four-wheel drive to tow the trailer and haul the equipment and things around on the property, going and getting supplies. So I'll probably keep it, sell the 1500. It's just two-wheel drive. In hindsight, was it worth it? Probably not. It was a real pain in the ass, but ended up with a nice truck at the end with low miles. Could have just went out and bought one, but whatever. You live and you learn. And we'll see what the next project is.